There is a singular theme in gaming that has captured the imagination of millions, and yet seemingly hasn't made the leap into the tabletop realm that is board games. That is the dopamine-fueled rush of capturing lovable creatures and having them fight in brutal cage matches for your own personal enjoyment and pride. Pokemon is literally the highest grossing IP in the world, and yet somehow we've never had a fully developed game that has us all screaming, "Gotta catch 'em all." Well, we haven't until now, that is. Even if Pikachu is nowhere to be found on or in the box, and surprisingly, this off-brand imitation might just be the best Pokemon game ever made. I'm Man-Seeking Meeple, and let's take a deeper look. So, what the heck is Dragon Eclipse anyway? Well, it's a narrative adventure game for 1 to 2 players who tame mistlings to play in 3 main ways. The first, you can play cooperatively or solo through the story with exploration, reading or listening to a narrative, performing tests, and fighting to defeat or tame mistlings as you go through. The second, you can take your mistlings through a gauntlet of battles, grabbing random power-ups, hoping to tame more powerful mistlings to see how far you can go. This is known as the roguelike mode. And lastly, the third way, you can play competitively, where you face your mistling against that of another player. Now, for this review, I'm mostly going to focus on the story mode as the main way to play Dragon Eclipse. I've only dabbled in the roguelike mode, and to be honest, I'm not sure I'll ever get a chance to play the competitive mode. After all, I did buy this to play with my 9-year-old son, but I did try the game solo just to learn the rules before teaching my son, and I found myself so entranced that I ended up playing through the entire campaign by myself. I got ending 4 if you're curious. So let's start with that. Now, stop me if you've heard this before. You're a young kid living in a quiet and peaceful village who has a special gift to tame creatures remarkably well. Your adventurous spirit yearns to venture out and tame creatures of all sorts, but shortly, you find yourself in the midst of cataclysmic events, and the fate of the world rests on your shoulders and yours alone. Yeah, with a few minor tweaks, this adventure is the same storyline of virtually every 90s JRPG ever made. And if I was to comment on the story, I would say that it's fun, but simple, serviceable, but safe. This story isn't going to stand out next to Oathsworn or other grand adventure games, but that's not necessarily the primary reason we're bringing this to our table. You want to know if it's fun. How's combat? Do they make taming new little creatures satisfying? Well, I've got good news for you. Let's start with the collection of mistlings, and at the same time, talk about the production quality. This is Awakened Realms. It's an Awakened Realms game, and well, let me just show you, rather than tell you, about a handful of mistlings that you can catch through the campaign. Now, You do get to start with one of 2 or 3 starter mislings. And man alive, these little miniatures that come in the deluxe version are a treat. A real joy to paint as they have lots of detail and are really a step up in quality. But I think one of the best parts is that as you play through the game, you get to collect any misling you tame into a binder. Your own personal catalog you can shop through to choose which misling to use next. What a rush you get when you successfully get to add another unique creature to your collection. I have to say, they knocked it out of the park on matching the feeling of capturing a Pokemon. And to add to that feeling, taming a misling isn't easy. See, in most combat encounters, you have 2 options available to you. You can defeat the enemy misling, generally doable. In fact, I never did lose a battle in the campaign, but there were several battles that came to the very edge. However, instead of just merely depleting their health, every misling has their own requirements as to what to do to tame them. And these are much more difficult tasks that need to be done in order. This extra challenge really does make the rush of taming a misling come careening in and feel earned. And no, there was no way I was able to tame every misling I fought. The challenge is real, even for strategic geeks like me. And that's part of the beauty of Dragon Eclipse. It threads both being approachable and somewhat simple to play, simple enough for me to play with my 9-year-old son, with being highly strategic and rewarding as a game for a serious nerd to play with his developing nerdling. I don't know if you can do much better than this for that. Now, we've talked a lot about the challenge of combat, but how do you actually play the game? What are you doing? Well, combat is mostly split into 2 major camps. The first involves choosing your misling and constructing a deck. Think Baby's First Magic the Gathering game, but with sharp teeth. You're consistently unlocking new cards throughout the campaign, which are in non-randomized boosters, giving you that rush of opening a new pack and discovering what it holds. Yes, I did say Baby's First Magic. Luckily, deck construction is very simple. Your deck only consists of 16 cards, and you can only include general cards like those that you start with and cards of your misling's element. This makes each of the 6 different elements play and feel incredibly different from each other, so you never have too many options available to you until you know the game inside and out already. And what a great, gentle ease into such a deep mechanic this is. Now, the second major camp is then using those cards you've constructed in combat. Again, to keep it as simple, there are only ever 4 cards available to you that you can play on a turn. And when you play a card, you collect more gems depending on how long you've waited, which slides all the other cards down. Now, those gems can then be spent each turn, if you have enough, to power misling-specific and element-specific abilities. It could let you squeeze in a move to get into position for an attack, or move to avoid a heavy hit that's coming your way. Or perhaps it might give you an extra attack, let you place a token on the board, cause a status effect, cycle cards. Each misling has such different options, and these options, when paired with the cards, really do open up strategic possibilities. Now, enemies also only have 3 possible actions, 4 with a time special ability they'll do. And you always know what they'll be doing on their next turn. Not to mention, each battlefield often has unique obstacles, challenges, or elements to interact with. Everything is simple, but to do well requires planning and precision. I really do find it great for beginners and the experienced alike. Now, does this have the depth of a several $100 big box adventure game like Gloomhaven or Oathsworn or Isofarian Guard? No, not at all. But it is so much more approachable, and that really should count for something. I said I played solo just to learn the game, and the fact that I finished through the entirety of the campaign should tell you that the combat is fun and satisfying. It might only take 15 minutes, maybe even less, but in those short minutes, it's shocking how many decisions and how much planning that you actually have to make and go through. So to review, production quality, through the roof. Story and exploration, it's fine, but it's really all about the creatures you can tame, just like its inspiration. The combat is crunchy, it's fast-paced, and yet remarkably approachable. Honestly, it's pretty great. Now, who would I recommend this to? If you're the kind of person who plays heavy adventure games solo, like a few of the ones that I've mentioned earlier, I'd probably tell you to get something deeper and heavier. Check out Isofarian Guard if you haven't looked into it and its newish cinematic mode. But if those are too much, or you want something that plays like those big adventure games, but plays a little simpler, quicker, isn't much of a commitment to jump into, or something that you just want to share with someone who isn't as hardcore as you, or you're just dying for a great Pokemon game, then honestly, Dragon Eclipse might just be the best recommendation I can think of to give you. It's such a beautiful game, and I look forward to spending years enjoying it with my kids, even if it's only with one at a time, or two of them are enjoying it together. Thanks.